Let's go ahead and bring in Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He's a Republican who serves on the Intelligence Committee, also a former Navy SEAL. Congressman, which way do you think this third round vote on Jim Jordan's going to go this morning?
It's not going to get better. So you played some comments downplaying the threats against these members. Oh, everybody gets threats. Look, nobody's been a target of crazy online backlash like me. Right, I'm like clickbait for people. I should get a T-shirt that says clickbait. This stuff is different. This stuff is different. What I'm seeing against these members and their families and the things being said by right-wingers, that's different. And so, and this is the problem. I've said this a week and a half ago, that if Jim Jordan's allies went down this path, he wouldn't become Speaker. They would entrench opposition. That's exactly what's happened. So they're not moving. That's the facts as they are right now. I'm going to vote for Jim Jordan on this third round because I'm a stickler for process. He won the majority. I'm going to vote for him as long as he's running. But the facts aren't changing. People should understand the facts aren't changing. Trying to push us into the weekend and force votes and this kind of fake nobility of getting the job done, that's not going to work. It's going to backfire. I want people to understand, too, sitting around a room up here arguing about who's the most popular, that's not working for the American people. I don't like it when people come on Fox and say we got to get the work done. That's not work. I want to remind my fellow legislators that work up here is your committee work. It's legislating, it's writing bills, and so what you need is somebody in the chair who can bring bills to the floor. That's the actual work for the American people. Too many have forgotten that. So we do need to get back to work, but not the kind of work some of these folks are saying. This is one of the reasons I was in favor of that temporary empowerment. Jim Jordan was in favor of that. Because you need someone to bring bills to the floor. We need a reset. Stop yelling at each other for a little while. And see who can consolidate some support. It doesn't have to be this hair on fire type of conversation, which is what we're engaging in at the moment. The real work is the legislation, and there's no reason why we can't keep doing that.
Well, yeah, and I'm sorry, Congressman Shannon Bream here. That McHenry plan seemed like it sort of stalled yesterday. If this Jordan vote fails again, we'll see if that's resurrected. In the meantime, this is all against the backdrop of some very serious domestic and foreign policy issues. I want to read something from Tom Cotton, like you, a veteran who has served us and our country in uniform. He says this: there have been multiple attacks against Americans by Iran's proxies in the last few days alone. Biden must immediately warn Iran that any attack by its proxies against Americans will be treated as a direct attack by Iran against the U.S. and will be met with massive retaliation. Where are you on exactly what this administration needs to be signaling to Iran at this moment?
You could have read my tweet. I think I tweeted something very similar. So I completely agree with Senator Cotton on this. There needs to be very clear consequences laid out for Iran and Hezbollah. People don't understand this because they're very uncomfortable with this concept that if you want to prevent war, you have to be able to threaten it and threaten it credibly. And that takes statements that make people uncomfortable. You know, President Trump actually did this all the time. He had an intuition for what deterrence actually was. President Biden whispering, don't do it, into the microphone is not as effective. There needs to be clear statements. I appreciate them moving the carrier group into the Eastern Med. You need more actions like that, and you need very clear statements that say there will be retaliation. Because what's happening right now is Iran and Hezbollah, they are actively in the decision-making process about whether they will open up that multi-front war. You know, they've always talked about this war to end all wars, the final war against Israel. And they may not have been expecting it to turn out like this, but they are actively making that decision, and that decision will be dependent on what they think will happen to them in return. If you want to prevent war, you have to make it very clear that you're willing to beat the crap out of your enemies if they try something.
So to clarify, I mean, you've had Senator Graham out there, who has also a veteran himself, saying, listen, we will tell Iran we're going to actually physically strike at your oil manufacturing, those kinds of things. I mean, are you talking about physical strikes within the borders of Iran?
If they invade Israel, if they do direct attacks on it, because if they do that, now you have an existential threat against Israel. So absolutely, yes, President Biden needs to put it on the table that there could be physical strikes in Iran if they do physical strikes inside Israel. Like if they are threatening the existence of Israel, that has to be on the table. And we have to be saying that. And us saying that is what prevents it from all happening. People have to understand that.
Okay. You mentioned the carrier groups and what we have in the region there. We think more broadly about the drone attacks, the things that have come on where we have U.S. troops in uniform on the ground. Do you equate that with Iran's, if they had a direct attack on Israel, or, the proxies, the strikes at U.S. interests? Where does that fall in categorizing us pushing back, taking action physically against Iran?
It wouldn't fall in the same category, not necessarily. Where we're at now is what they're doing is testing us, right? They're testing us. They're testing what we'll say. And so clarity from the president is paramount here. Congressmen and senators can say what they'll say, and they'll give an indication about what we'd vote for. But the president needs to be very clear. When it's this tit-for-tat surrogate warfare, which is what Iran has been doing forever, so this is nothing new to us. Right? Houthis launch rockets, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq launch rockets. We've dealt with this before, and we've dealt with it proportionately. It would be very different if Iran opened up a serious, actual multi-front war with Israel along with Hezbollah. Because that threatens the actual existence of the state of Israel. It threatens the existence of the Jewish state. So we have to be very clear about the differences.
All right, Congressman, we always appreciate your time. Good luck in finding resolution, as you said, getting things back to work in Congress for the American people. And as always, we thank you to your service in this country on multiple fronts in many different ways. Thank you, sir.